where is the human being going? Where are we developing in this time? And for me, there is something really essential about this collective capacity building for kind of human evolution that I sense is occurring in this time. And you've probably heard the phrase, the next Buddha is the Sangha, going around quite a lot recently. And I apply that in a Christian context as well. I feel the next Christ is the
Body.
collective body. It's the collective consciousness. Um, and so that actually dovetails very well because it's not that sort of North Star of coming into a communion of body and spirit, of coming into a place where your spiritual life and your soul is fully in relation with or as fully as possible while still being in your body. And that's really anchored right down into the fibers of your body and, into your physicality, into your sexuality, into your day-to-day conduct. Um, and it's that meeting in the middle that I associate with kind of Christ and the center of the cross. It's where flesh and spirit, where body, mind, and soul are all kind of coming together. And there's something about the collective body, the group, that affords us to do that and to realize that. And um, spiritual realization and awakening can be a very lonely thing, especially when the experiences we have or the changes we're going through, we can't articulate them, or the people around us cannot receive them. And so it's really, really important to have friends and brothers who actually can see us in our humanity and see us see us as Jacob and Matthew, but can also see with that deeper vision, with that third eye, with that soul gaze that can see, oh, I can sense the the Christ self, the higher self that is coming through you. And insofar as we can see that in one another, I think that nothing could transform culture more radically than that. To be seen in that and to realize that collectively is, yeah, possibly the great adventure of this life for me.
And it seems like the proper spirit to orient a group as you're going through that work, in a sense of like exactly what Matthew's saying, of like you don't want to force a top-down ideology on people, but also that spirit of love and openness and truth is something that you're following in a sense as well. And because you mentioned, Jacob, a horizontal axis, I mean that vertical axis of the virtues of processing wisdom, temperance, justice, courage, like all of those things on that kind of progress to a better self, whatever. I mean, you want to describe that. I think most people would agree that those virtues are pretty good. And if we could embody them, that's, developmentally makes sense. And I think that is part of the Dialogos practice anyway, is really focused on those virtues. Like it is on, understanding the virtues in more nuanced ways and the vices, so you can recognize them in yourself and in others. And by recognizing them, in some sense, you kind of can start to use them in a way, or they become more part of you. So I really think that's what self-development is like. So I think you're both bringing something very exciting there to it that makes a really powerful combo.
Yeah, and that was a beautiful articulation, Jacob, of the bigger vision, the cultural transformational dimension of this work. I loved how you how you expressed that. It was very clear and actually landed in me maybe even more deeply than in our past discussions. And I wanted to also add to your model, your vertical horizontal integration, the kind of yes, certainly the vertical connection to soul, higher self, spirit, and the vertical connection downwards into the ancestral domain and the earth, and really being grounded in that. And for me, ancestors or connecting with my ancestors, recognizing their ancestral nervous system, if you like, that I'm a part of, is new. It's still fairly new, and I've had a chance to do some quite deep work around that in the last year or two, but it's become very real to me in a way that it wasn't before. It was just offline completely until I had that opportunity. So I even just starting to reach that dimension without necessarily knowing how we interact with it, or like what to do with it, or how to move around in relation to it, just to acknowledge that there is an ancestral reality. And however we conceptualize that, like there's many different ways we can think about what that really means, but just to open that question, I think, is already a powerful step. And it's actually a step we took at the very beginning of our friendship, when we met over this question of how the trauma of World War I or World War II lives on from our ancestors in us. And so it feels quite, although it's not something necessarily, we're not like necessarily presenting this as a kind of ancestral healing experience directly, in a way that is very much there, that there is that element that I think we can, and which again we need to approach in community. Yes, we can do ancestral work on our own, but we're doing it together really can evoke something very powerful, I think.